I am Alberta Odenthal Scheiber. I was born and raised as a farm girl about 2½ to 3 miles southwest of Delano. I grew up as the oldest of 5 children. The other 4 were boys. Living on a farm meant we each had our chores, such as milking cows, feeding chickens, helping make hay, and so forth. We even helped some of the neighbors shuck grain for 75 cents per hour. At that time, it seemed like pretty good money to us. Our family lived in a sturdy stucco house with 3 bedrooms. We did not have indoor plumbing until I was 13 years old, meaning we had an outhouse. We also didn't have electricity until I was 12 or 13 years old. While I was in high school in the 50s, we got a television set, a 17-inch black and white Emerson. Instead of playing board games, we would get to watch television in the evening after homework was done. For my first 5 years, I attended a country school. During 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, I went to St. Peter's Parochial School. Then I attended Delano High School for 4 years. There I concentrated in commercial subjects, general business, typing, and 2 years of shorthand. There were 29 students in my graduating class and only 4 school buses with very long routes. We didn't get home until nearly 5 o'clock. Our family attended St. Peter's Catholic Church every Sunday, unless there was a severe snowstorm. It had to be a really bad one for us to stay at home. After graduating from high school, I worked at the Delano Granite Works in the office starting in June of 1953 and stayed working there until May of 1957. My duties included being the file clerk, answering the phones on the switchboard when the switchboard operator, who was Myra Zebarth Westerman, needed to leave her desk, and delivering customers' mail to the various office personnel's desks. I remember my job interview sitting across the big granite-top desk opposite Don Gilmer and very nervously answering his questions in a way I thought might get me the job. Bert Gilmer, the president, had his office upstairs. You wanted to be especially busy whenever he would unexpectedly walk through the office. I also remember when the salesmen from the various states came to the office and wanted to check on a customer's order. I needed to find the file on that customer as fast as possible. Clinton McCarney was one of them, and the nicest and most polite of them all. On my very first day of work, I was called into Gordon Tweeton's office to take a business letter from him in shorthand, and then to type it for him to mail to a customer. My high school shorthand was put to the true test. Nervous as I was, I managed to do it correctly. It made me feel really good. Another recollection I have is the times we employees were paid a bonus, all in silver dollars. It seemed especially wonderful because it was in the form of the silver dollars. I also remember that there were no coffee breaks allowed. We had a way of opening a desk drawer with a cup of coffee in it and closing it real fast when Don or Bert Gilmer's car pulled into the parking lot. I have many fond memories of working at the Delano Granite Works. I left the Granite Works when I was expecting our first child. I still live in Delano and often see some of the former employees. Hobbies of me and my husband include gardening, fishing, reading, and traveling. We especially enjoy spending time with our 3 children and 4 grandchildren.
My name is Lucille Ludischer. I was born in Minneapolis on August 5th, 1921. Our family, the Von Bank family, moved to Delano when I was about 3 years old. And we've lived here ever since. My father was a pressman for the Delano Eagle, and I attended St. Peter's School for 8 years, 4 years at the Delano High School. I graduated in May of 1939 and as a salutatorian. And back at that time, work was very scarce. And I happened to hear from Margaret Heinen, or Margaret Dean, that there was an opening at the Granite Works for a part-time clerk. I was given permission by the school to cut classes at 2 o'clock, and I'd work from 2 until 5:30 at the Granite Works. I did clerical work, filing, and wherever and whenever they needed office help, I was there. Well, during the summer of '39, work got pretty scarce again, and they had an opening in Chicago. They had a branch office there, and they wanted someone from the Delano office to come to Chicago and be an office manager at their place there across from Forest Lawn Cemetery. So at the age of 17 and a half, I took a train and went to Chicago to meet a boss who I'd never seen before. At that time he said, "I'll identify you if you carry a copy of the Delano Granite News." So off I went to Chicago in August of 1939, and I worked there. I was very lonesome, and finally in December of that year they decided that I should come back to Delano and work full-time in Delano, which I did for about the next 30 plus years. I helped with the bookkeeper. I did secretarial work, and when the sales secretary decided to get married, they offered me the job as secretary in the sales department. I did that work until, it must have been 1950. And at that time I became pregnant and I had my first child. And I was probably out of the office for about two and a half years. And after Carl started to grow, my sister offered to babysit with him, and I went back to work. And I worked for the next 7 years, and I became pregnant again, and I had a daughter at that time. And I was away from the office about 4 years then. At that time, Mr. Askell, who was credit manager, passed away unexpectedly. And Don Gilmer called me into the office wanting to know if I would come back and do credit work, which I did. I did that until, Wayne Field took over, and as credit manager I could see the company was not making money. They called me in one afternoon about 4 o'clock and said I was through at 5 o'clock. That, of course, was quite a shock to me. I knew working in credit and being credit manager that they were not making money, but I didn't expect to be laid off in that manner. So after that, I have many memories of the people that came into the office. Most of them were young girls out of high school. This was their first job, as it was my first job. I became office manager and I directed them. Many of these ladies come to me today and tell me what an experience that was, their first job, and I was their boss. And that's about my story for the Granite Works.